In today's simple woodworking project, we'll also cover all of its available shapes and sizes. More about that coming up. First cuts in 10 seconds. Free plans available at whosthevoss.com for anything built here on the channel. Grab a 1x4x8 and head over to your miter saw. Set your angle to 30 degrees and cut the end of your board. I prefer to cut angles like this instead of laying down, because I can't reach my saw if I'm laying down. If your board is like this, there's a large chance of the blade being pushed off of its straight path by wood movement. You'll need to clamp down your material. After your initial cut, flip your board over, measure down 4 inches, and make another cut. Repeat this step 24 times. Another pro tip, before making all these cuts, sand your board down. It's easier when it's one big long piece. I didn't include it earlier because I only had 10 seconds to cut the board. I couldn't explain all the steps on prep and sanding. And here they are. Sand your board first, if you want to. 24 pieces, 6 in each stack, 4 stacks total. Take one piece from each stack and connect the corners to find the center. I like to pre-drill the hole with an 1/8 inch drill bit. This next step, we need a few shorter mason jars. Ironically, John Mason, who changed food preservation forever, failed to patent that little rubber ring inside of his lid in 1858. That meant that competitors could move in and eventually flood the market. He lost control of his invention. He died penniless in 1902. You'll also need a hole saw that has the same outside diameter as your mason jar's lid. These both are regular mouth jars. This is an 8 ounce, this is a 16 ounce. Regular mouth, regular lid. Don't know what that all means, but fits perfect. This guy is 2 3/4 inches. If you step up to a 3-inch hole saw, it fits inside there. That's not what we want. 2.5, looks like a hat, too small. Since these are pretty tiny pieces, we're going to use our feet clamps and drill halfway through our material, flip it over, and finish our cut to prevent blowout and make it easier to remove the core. Assembly is very straightforward and simple, although you'll see I'm about to get onto the struggle bus because that's just how I roll. You're going to get yourself a good, nice, long piece of painter's tape. Fold over the ends like so. Flip it over. You can use any of the type bonds, 1, 2, or 3. They have some differences. It doesn't really need to be 3. It's not going outdoors. It doesn't need to be waterproof, but hey, it's easy to get, and I got a whole bunch from Cedar Pickets. After applying a hefty amount of glue, set it up against something, move on to your next piece. We're going to do this for all 6 pieces. I applied glue to all the sides at one time because it buys us a little time from when we had first put glue on that first piece. And as you can see, all these little dots, you see some little light spots where the wood has soaked all of the glue in, and there's not much left to hold our project together. And that's true on almost all of them. This guy really drank it up. You can see this is a big dry spot, and there's barely any glue on your hands when you touch it because the board is soaking it all up. And when I go to glue these 2 pieces together on a side that has no glue right now, it's going to soak up the rest of it, and there's not going to be any glue holding our project together. So when you get these nice dry spots, you got to reapply your glue. And now that our material isn't thirsty anymore, we can just start putting them down onto our piece of tape. I like to put all of the glue sides on one side or the other. Don't put 2 glue spots together. You're going to squeeze out a bunch of glue that way. As you put them down, put the edge of your board, just kind of toe it into the edge of the next board, just like that. So you get a nice tight joint. Make sure your ends are lining up. There it is. And all you have to do now is begin to roll it up into its final shape. You're going to have some glue squeeze out. That's normal. Get to that in just a moment. And gently bring them together as you squeeze out that remainder of glue. Wrap your tape around. Voila. Clean up all this glue and get it out of all the crevices. Let it dry for a couple hours. After the glue's dry, if you wanted to add a little strength, you can use a pin nailer, brad nailer. Pin nailers, pick this guy up, about 30 bucks. Pin nails just don't have heads like brad nails do, so they're easier to hide in your project, so you actually don't have a little nail spot. You just have this little dent. Once I go to sand that, fill it in with some stain, you're not going to notice they're there. Just shoot the nail kind of at an angle, shoot a nail at an angle, keeps them nice and solid. Even though we sanded the board before we made our cuts, now that it's all assembled, we're going to sand everything again. 90% of woodworking. You can get this accomplished using a belt sander. It goes quite quickly. Or just grab an orbital sander, throw it on a towel so there's less vibrations. You're going to sand off any glue spots, sand all those miters so they look nice and clean. Hit the edges. Bada boom. No ads rolling through the middle of this video because I kind of made my own advertisement. I wanted to update my review mirror in my new truck, and Wolfbox was kind enough to send me one of their products. Check it out. This DIY upgrade could be made in a single afternoon. Makes any vehicle feel like a showroom luxury model, and if you happen to be in an accident, having this level of proof costs less than your high insurance deductible. Even if something happens when you're not around, this system keeps a watchful eye over your vehicle 24/7. And that's not even the best part. You don't have to be an extreme rock climbing adventure seeker to install this in your vehicle. It has its urban perks too. Packed in this box is everything you need, including 3 installation methods for external cameras, a 12-volt power adapter and dedicated power supply that is 100% plug and play. I mounted a camera above my rear brake light, which sees everything behind me and basically eliminates my blind spots. The other is mounted using a Fender GoPro attachment made for my Santa Cruz. This allows me to see what's going on behind the truck and helps me not park like a ding-dong. Each support HDR recording, clearly capturing license plates and key details even in low light. Wi-Fi connectivity allows you to easily download driving footage to your phone anytime, or you could easily view footage straight on the mirror's display. And all of these features can be controlled hands-free. Mainly I wanted something better than my stock review mirror because my truck bed is short, like really short. And even with an 8-foot board sticking out the back, I really couldn't see any of it. Now I have peace of mind driving home from the lumber store. Not to mention, the first day of owning my first car was my first experience with a hit and run. Then the 9th day of owning my brand new car, lady ran a stop sign. Once again, my car's all crumpled up. And finally, the second drive to work in my new truck, it got a flat tire. That was nobody's fault. Let's just say that the last 2 vehicles purchased, dash cameras were installed before I even left the dealership. I've had it for about 2 months and it is fantastic. Links are in the description if you are interested and wanted to pick one up for yourself. Sanding the interiors of our hexagons is a lot less fun than sanding the exterior, and that's why we went through and made sure to clean up all of our glue with a wet rag so that way there's less of this that you have to do. Sanding the interior, you can just grab a piece of sandpaper. You can't really sand this direction because of your grain. You want to go with grain direction when you're sanding. Otherwise, you could get an oscillating tool if you already have an oscillating tool. Most of them come with this sanding head. I cut one down so that it fits inside of here because this one is too big. They make these that you can buy. Mine was free, so I cut one down. Or if you wanted to pick up a mouse sander, they make extensions that come out the front that look like this, and you could get in and sand the interiors with this. It's a pretty tight space for really any tool. I found this does it the best. And we are not sanding eye contact. We are not sanding this inner circle. You can take a piece of sandpaper, go around this top edge. If you want to use the router with a nice round over bit, you can kiss that top edge. But we are not sanding this interior space. We want it to be the exact size that it is. You sand it, it's going to be too big by like 1/64 of an inch. Before we get into our geography lesson, sorry, that's the shapes of continents. Our geometry lesson, what the heck is this thing? Most of you probably already know. Take your jar, take that poorly patented lid out. Come on, John. You're going to put this bad boy back on the top if you want. Flip your project over because it's easier. Put your jar in there. Rattle them around a bit. You're going to want to put a little bit of super glue on that jar lid before you push it up in there, because if somebody wants to take this out and clean it, you can. So put your jar just like so. There it is. Fill it up with candy, flowers, pins, probably flowers. With my minimal knowledge on mason jars, they do make them that have this quilted pattern. Thought I would dress it up a little bit. However, a half pint versus a pint, they look a little silly inside of here. I think it's so that you can freeze these while those you can't freeze. They're just a lot smaller. I like that the lids are silver. The nice thing with these jars, if you buy the larger size, they can drop in the top. You don't have to get them in from underneath. So they drop in, they are flush down the sides, versus these that have to be screwed in from the bottom because they protrude out a little bit underneath. Let's say you want to stand out amongst the competition and build yours in a couple different shapes. It is easy breezy, although you can't really Google what the angles are. I tried. I had to do the math. So let's do the math together. A circle, 360 degrees around. We're going to use a square because everybody knows one of these. 360 degrees divided by 4, because I have 4 sides. That's going to give me 90. So 90 degrees is where my joints meet. That is not going to be a miter. So we're going to divide that number one more time by 2 so that we have 2 equal mitered pieces. 360 divided by 4 divided by 2 is 45. And then you know to cut each of these miters at 45 degrees to get a 4-sided shape that is equal all the way around. And that's true for any shape. If you want to find this one out, 360 divided by 5 divided by 2. 360 divided by 7 divided by 2. One more time, the hexagon, 360 divided by 6 is going to be 60 degrees. Again, that's not going to be a mitered corner yet. Divided by 2, 30 degrees. That's where we get our 30-degree angle. One more thing before I throw a bunch of numbers at you. All of these are cut to 5-inch sides. So every single one of these pieces is 5 inches when I measured it on the miter saw. These are 4 inches. And you can see the size difference between a 5-inch and a 4-inch hexagon. And to size your projects to make them work, you're going to have to do, a little trial and error, try one out, see how big it is. It works great if you just cut a thin little strip like this and build your project and see how it turns out. You still need a 2 3/4 inch opening so that you can have a spot for your jar. And you don't have too much you could cut down, even from a 10-sided, to where your jar is going to be hanging out really high in the air. But we'll go over the angles anyway. It's good knowledge to have. The square, we know that one. 45 degrees gets us perfectly mitered corners across 4 sides. Pentagons, that's going to be 5 sides, which means our angle is 36 degrees to get ours all nice and purty. Now, the problem with odd number shapes is that the sides are not parallel anywhere. Our square, it's parallel. 6, 8, 10. They have a parallel side, so the top is flat. These do not. You can stand out from the competition. It's just going to be on a side instead of straight up and down. Could work out. I mean, we have that thing, and it's at an angle. People buy that. Could be a cool project. 5, pentagon, 36 degrees. Hexagon, we already know, 30-degree angles gets us all of our sides to be nicely mitered. The 7 is this angle, and my miter saw doesn't have that angle option, so I like the whole number idea. So maybe just skip 7. Octagon, classic stop sign. I didn't plan it to be red, I just picked random colors. He is a 22.5-degree angle, which actually has a locking spot on most miter saws. It's a common rafter angle. Also, you can use it to make octagons on your miter saw. 22.5 degrees. Again, 5-inch to 4-inch. They start getting kind of large. Decagon. I remember that because it sounds fun. 10-sided object. Again, it still has parallel sides as you go around. It is going to be an 18-degree angle to get them nicely mitered to go around and make almost a circle. That might look a little silly. Paint or stain your creations how you see fit. I like a good Kona or natural stain on some pine wood. Looks really good, gives you some nice contrasts. If you're using Kona, just kind of lightly put it on with a rag. You can use a sandpaper to hit the edges to kind of give it that rustic-y farmhouse feel, if that's what you're going for. Works great. I used a E600 glue about 4 hours ago, and I was hoping it would be dry, but since we have AC here in the shop, things take a lot longer to dry as far as stains and paints and glues. So they are not dry yet, so they are all upside down. It's fine. Once I put the glue in there, I just take a thinner board and I just press that lid down. I don't use the jars to push the lid down like I did earlier in the video. You're gonna maybe shatter one. It's never happened to me, but disclaimer. So let's talk profits. This is the Grimoire. It's from Wicked. My wife bought it for me. I like to use it for this part of the show. $3.98 per board divided by 4, because we get 4 projects out of each board. So 99 cents per project, 5 cents electricity, 6 cents glue, 83 cents per jar, 3 cents stain, $1.96 per project, $20 to $30 per project that you're selling. If you're making them out of nicer hardwoods, you can get closer to that higher dollar amount. I can get 4 of these products done per hour. Sanding and stain are going to completely control that dollar amount. If you take a little more time on sanding and stain, finishing, the project's going to look a heck of a lot better at the end. You can make a little bit more money than if you just slapped it together, called it a day. $18.04 to $28.04 profit per product brings me out to $72.16 to $112.16 per 8-foot board if you're using pine. If you're using hardwoods, hardwood might cost you a little bit more, but you get a bigger payout. This is a great, easy, small product if you're packing it up in some totes, taking it to craft shows, or if you're packing it into an actual box and shipping it off somebody because you're selling them online. I do have a where to sell and when to sell products. Go check those videos out. They are very informative. And that's the show, people. Turn off whatever device you're watching this on and get out into your shops.